Hello and welcome to Digital Photography's I3 lecture series. We are thrilled to have photographer Robin Schwartz as tonight's guest speaker. Robin earned an MFA in photography from Pratt Institute, and her photographs are in the permanent collections of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Museum of Modern Art, the Smithsonian American Art Museum, and the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. Publications include the New York Times Magazine, the New Yorker, Time, New York Times Lens Blog, Slate, PDN, Fader, and Stern, among many others. Recently, Robin was one of the 10 shortlisted finalists at the Hier Photography Festival in France. She was a guest speaker at the National Geographic magazine's annual photography seminar in Washington, D.C., and gave master talks at Look 3, the Charlottesville Photography Festival, David Allen Harvey Workshop, the Eddie Adams Workshop, and the International Center of Photography. Tonight we help you celebrate the publication of your Aperture monograph, Amelia and the Animals. We don't have animals, but we do have Amelia in the audience, and we are thrilled to have you here. So please help me welcome Robin Schwartz to our lecture series.
I really appreciate being here today. A special thank you to Katrine Eisman. I call Katrine a lot for advice, and she doesn't know me very well, but she always is very generous to me. I'm figuring out what glasses to use. I'm really glad to be here because I think SVA is an extraordinary school, and it's one that I wish I had the opportunity to go to. I just told Tom that I'd come here like on any, in any way. I have stage fright, and I've done a lot of these lectures, and actually this is the one with the least amount of people, but these lectures make my life better. So I'm going to be a little nervous, but maybe I'll warm up. My first big lecture was at National Geographic, where Elizabeth Chris, the senior photo editor, found me on the web, and it totally changed my life. Besides her showing me how to speak for a very short period of time and editing my keynote, when I spoke there, I was with a lot of other people, and it was a huge bonding experience. And from there, Vince Musi, a photographer, picked me up and invited me to speak at Look 3, which is an amazing festival in Charlottesville in June, and also gave me a solo show there. I was invited to also go speak at the Eddie Adams Workshop, and I'll be speaking there again in 2015. The Amelia photographs are from an ongoing 12-year series. The first book was Amelia's World, and it was edited by Tim Barber. And he pulled me from his website. There was a website called Tiny Vices, and he published 5 books in a set, and mine sold out. And also this was by Aperture. I'm really happy to be published by Aperture. It's an historic photography and a not-for-profit foundation, and it was really an honor. People at Aperture have really become family to me and Amelia. They've watched Amelia grow up, and they've tolerated her at gallery openings. When she was little, she rolled around on Heelys with sushi and soy sauce, and they just let it happen, and I was going to die. This book, the new book, Amelia and the Animals, is presented chronologically from 2002 through 2013. We've been lucky with publicity with the book, and there's been many interviews, and there'll be a feature in Oprah magazine in a couple of weeks. That's a big one. Amelia just carried off a FaceTime interview at the UK for the Telegraph magazine, which is a UK publication, and when she's with me, as you saw, I let her answer the questions. Today's our first book signing. I had not set out to photograph my child. I'm a working mother, and I'm perpetually overwhelmed with deadlines, and I attempt to navigate the politics of my teaching job as a professor in photography at William Patterson University of New Jersey. I try to give my daughter what she needs and take care of my home and be nice to my husband, and then I try to produce art. Despite the Amelia project, I feel I have spent too much time away from my child. who grew up as fast as everyone told me she would, and now she is a powerful 15. And we could break each other in 15 seconds. But I have a new second dog who feels like a baby and doesn't mind my kisses and hugs. I understand now how being affectionate to a pet could be misinterpreted by older kids. I eavesdrop on my college students and I hear them complain about how their mothers love their dog more than they do, and I assure you, they don't. Up until Amelia, my excuse to photograph has been my drive to be with animals, my short-lived friends in photography. Communicating with animals and witnessing what I call interspecies relationship and being accepted into a dog pack or holding a baby gorilla have been my highs. Now, my most intense experience has been growing up and growing old with my daughter. I earned my access to animals from prior projects. The primates and dogs have been published as monographs. My first editor, Jim Mars at Norton, considered my work for 2 years before publishing Like Us Primate Portraits. I assume his tipping point getting the book past the publishing table, the book always goes on a table and a lot of people talk about it, was after the Museum of Modern Art and the Metropolitan Museum of Art purchased primate photographs along with a New Jersey state grant. At that time, there were portfolio reviews where you could drop off your book at the museum for a month. And I was lucky enough to shake John Sarkowski's hand because he was a deciding factor. Maybe for my Norton editor, there was less of a financial risk if others were paying attention to the work. The work was the same as 2 years prior. I hope to re-edit the primate portraits and publish this series differently. I also did a Mexico series, and this did not get past the table. It was deemed too depressing for sales. I deeply regret that I did not have the stamina and the confidence to continue my Arabber series. And especially, I also regret not finishing my primate series or stopping. I folded under criticism and I quit twice. The curator at the Brooklyn Museum, who was a mentor to me, got me to continue the primate photographs, but it has taken me years of photographing animals to understand the politics concerning animals is not black and white. It's very complicated, and that I shouldn't be swayed by others who think they know what is morally right. I learned in these past few years that you could never go back to opportunities you've passed up. Time changes everything. Access to my subjects and my subjects. I learned too late what the Primate Project meant to the people I met through the project. When my former chairperson and dean objected to my photographing my daughter, I did not yield to the pressure to quit. The experience of having my superiors at my job urge me to quit a personal project I deeply cared about taught me to emphasize even more, to empathize even more with my students' choices, to always consider and respect what my students care about. Many people ask me about my access to animals and owners. Last semester I taught my first class at ICP on animal portraiture, and one of the first questions was asked was, where'd you get those elephants? My access is personal, from either proving myself with my work that can be easily seen on my website or being recommended by a trusted friend. I work very hard to gain access, as I don't have any money to pay the high rates of modeling agencies. In 2014, getting in is really challenging and quite different from the easy vetting I had of the 1980s and 90s. My daughter has always been more than sweet. Amelia is tough, she's very smart, and her verbal skills far exceed mine. Becoming a mother did not come naturally. I am comfortable with puppies and not human babies. Thank goodness for the intense bond breastfeeding gave us. Sorry, Amelia. Photography further linked us, providing Amelia with adventures to write about, for school and the foreword of our new book. At age 15, Amelia asked me to photograph her and tries to direct me. Unfortunately, she's driven by fashion and her maturing body, which can complicate or enhance my shooting. Amelia wasn't going to come today, so she came at the last minute. And so our photography partnership evolves with the changes in our relationship that day. I struggle to drop my ego and to listen and to consider Amelia's suggestions now to achieve the best possible shooting scenario. We brainstorm and negotiate what to do in very time-pressured situations. My daughter and my stories become one through our collaboration. I know I also photograph myself through these pictures. These photographs are my legacy to my daughter, what she will have of our time together. I began this project after my mother's death to give Amelia something of us. We are both only children. My father died just after I turned 19, and I can be very morbid about mortality. Photography is my therapy, and of course my animals are a necessity. Our household animals have been all over Amelia since birth. We tried a crib for a week, but it seemed cruel to put her in a cage while my husband and I slept with 2 dogs, 2 whippets, and 2 cats. So when a lemur flew over Amelia's head while I was photographing, she was not fazed. Although my husband says Amelia is named after his grandfather, whose last name was Amel, I got the name from my friend Allison's capuchin. After a time, I called her Little Amelia. Little Amelia died in 2013, and she was estimated to be 45 years old. I photographed the memorial service as my Amelia said goodbye. The backstory to Little Amelia is that I began photographing her in 1988 with her human sister Hannah. Having a monkey sister and being called Monkey Girl was not easy for this full scholarship Yale graduate. Hannah was the only other child I've ever had the drive to photograph. I photographed the author photo for Hannah Friedman's book, Everything Sucks, a junior high school memoir. Now Hannah is a TV writer in LA. My Amelia has inherited my attachment to toy monkeys. The one in the top, the turquoise one, that was mine, my own baby clothes. These are very specific characters and have become my grandchildren. I photographed and traveled with them for 8 years. Amelia banished them from her life and will not discuss them. She is more mature than I am, and I have inherited them. I guess this talk is full of regrets. I regret being too busy to play with all of them when I had the chance. I miss the way they came to life and were in our lives. I took for granted that everyday magic that is fleeting with a ticking biological clock. I hope to combine these photographs of Amelia and her toys because they went with us so many places and they had their own adventures. I just pulled this really bad scan at like 5 to 3 and I threw it in. Amelia set up many of the shots with her gang, and there's primates with these toy primates. Many of my early opportunities came because one of my students told me to go to the Catskill Game Farm in upstate New York. It's closed. It closed in 2005. It was a gift. It was a place out of time. This photo ran in Oprah's magazine. Amelia puts up with my deer obsession. She's a monkey person. Boy deer were pretty pushy, and they understood that corn and treats had to be bought. Girl deer only came forward when the boys were isolated, when the velvet on their antlers fell off, because they're really sharp. Amelia learned how to win the trust of the girls. Amelia's low-key, and she lets animals come to her. To this day, Amelia doesn't think she does anything special with animals or with me in the photographs. When Amelia was 3 years old, we met Sheba at the Catskill Game Farm. Amelia made direct conversation with this elephant, and Sheba picked her up on Amelia's command. We went back to visit Sheba that summer and found out that she'd been deported to Canada for not having the proper paperwork. It took us 3 years to make the trip to Canada and to visit Sheba again. She was phenomenal. We also met Pete, a lemur as well. This photo became an Aperture limited edition print. Some circus people have generally allowed us in their world. Luckily for me, they take to Amelia, and my past monkey work vets me in. Performing animal people, this is a circus horse here, and exotic owners, they all know each other. The elephants I have photographed Amelia with are all well cared for females, females in their 40s. I've had the privilege of knowing their trainer for many years. In this photograph, I think Jenny is sniffing Amelia's butt. Heather, who runs an educational zoo, bringing animals to schools, has befriended us and access to our animals. This is an albino wallaby. I think white animals are magical. In this photo, Amelia figures out how to lure these shy kangaroos. Food is a necessity. Amelia earned this kangaroo Mouse's trust. Without asking Heather, Amelia placed her hand inside Mouse's pouch and felt a very small Joey, who had not peeked out yet. There was something that Heather couldn't do. That was really something Heather couldn't do at this stage. Heather told me she watches how each kid interacts with her animals at the various schools she visits. Heather said that Amelia has an aura. This was really the first time I remember an animal caretaker talking to me about Amelia and how she relates to animals. How Amelia relates to animals at the shoots comes up many times where we visit. She's oblivious to comments and many people telling her how lucky she is, which seems to happen a lot. She wants me to do fashion shoots, which I'm going to do as a thank you to Amelia. We just lined up one on Monday with dogs and sweaters. And I've given in, and I'm gonna do it, Amelia. Let's see. I'm sorry. A few years ago, after the kangaroo photo with Mouse and Amelia, the TV show Inside Edition contacted me through my accidentally signing a bad 3-month contract with Bancroft Media. Inside Edition wanted to film me photographing Amelia with something big, like an elephant, and they wanted me to get it and to pay for it, whatever the expense. Since Inside Edition would not pay for anything else, my friend Heather made a 3-hour drive to bring 3 kangaroos to our 3rd floor apartment walk-up. This is the shot I got out of it. The story never aired. They were there for 7 hours. But it was fun, and the guys who were paving the streets of Hoboken got a kick out of seeing a kangaroo on our street. Oh, this was the picture. From the beginning, I've always given photographs or files as a thank you, and now I'm extremely behind in getting prints out. I really need studio help, office help. It's an appeal. It's a direct appeal right here. Pulling off my photography is a hardship on my family. It's good for me that my publisher, though, is a not-for-profit, because combined with my not being commercial, I'm allowed to photograph as a favor, paying no fee as I have no budget. Photography is damn expensive. I want Amelia to have good experiences and some fun during the shoots. The shoots can be hard work physically, and I depend upon Amelia ingenuity and experience for each shoot. How she chooses to engage with each animal really depends on each animal's socialization in that particular caretaker situation, not necessarily the breed or the species. So Amelia works really hard to figure out what to do. She tries a lot of things, and I just keep photographing. Sometimes we have a chance to talk it out. This was her idea. She has food on her stomach and she's lying down, and she's really a little kid here. What happens in front of the camera is really on Amelia. She tries several approaches and we try to go with the flow, while I persistently keep shooting until we all fall apart. When the animal or Amelia is done, they're really done, no matter how good they look in the frame, and I realize I never had any control. Most of this project was shot with a Mamiya 7 on 220 film. I think my aim when using film has been to get one good photo. Amelia now says she prefers digital, as I used to take too long to load and I got stressed and I missed the best situations. I curse a lot while I shoot, and Amelia's really used to this. I said goodbye to my 220 film last summer, and I have 200 rolls frozen in my freezer ready to connect with you. And I have cameras to sell. Now I am in annoying pain with my digital camera that keeps on going, but photographing live animals under the clock in challenging situations with no assistant makes digital sense for me. I was filmed for 35 years. I learned from National Geographic photographers to shoot with high ISOs and get the shot. Digital drives me nuts. I worry that I shoot too much and I miss the moment. I always feel I make so many mistakes, ones I should see when I'm shooting. I wish I were smarter and calmer. I certainly wish I was calmer. I made a deal with Amelia when she was 10 years old, that I would only photograph her with animals. At that time, that's what she wanted out of the shoots, and not to be bothered to photograph her solo, which I did a lot when she was younger. Meeting animals was what she wanted back then, what she got out of the shoots then. Now Amelia asks to be shot without animals, and I really don't want to. While editing for the book, Amelia got to tell me I told you so when my editor, Leslie Martin, asked to see more photos of Amelia solo, and I didn't have any. We're both very stubborn, but now is my time to bend. I will photograph Amelia as she wants to be photographed, which means fashion. I'm working to make this happen, and I'll find my drive to photograph without animals. I depend on Amelia and her styling and for assisting me. I hired Amelia as my assistant for my first editorial shoot for New York Magazine. This is Lena Dunham's dog, Lammy. Amelia was the perfect assistant. Lena really liked her, and for a year Lena was going to write the introduction to our book, but that's another story about not seizing the moment. Lena did write the best quote, and I saw today on Instagram she's wearing that picture around her neck. There was no photo credit. Ugh, that killed me. I also hired Amelia as my photo assistant for a photo essay on dog couture in New York City for Time Lightbox, and she shot the video as well. Early on, Amelia had no fear of bugs, slime, saliva, poop, or anything dead. 2 summers ago, Amelia put a dead possum into a jar of alcohol for me. I couldn't do it. This deer had been washed up in East Hampton. Except for this photograph, I don't photograph anything that's dead or taxidermied, through bars or glass. Lying with a dead deer was Amelia's idea. I was a bit freaked out by it. To me, Amelia seemed to be talking to the deer in her head. She was clearly empathetic to the deer and keenly interested in its bones and its structure, and she might have done more with it if I let her. She once pulled a peacock out of a dead peacock out of the garbage, and we have a bag of feathers from that thing. Anyway, Amelia has always wanted to be a scientist. The specifics have changed, but not her scientific desire. Though Amelia draws so well and she's passionate about her ceramics, and her drawings are part of the Kickstarter, and they're really cool. No way she would ever choose to be an artist like her struggling parents. My husband's a painter. My aim is to cross the line and become friends with some of my animal contacts. I'm privileged to be accepted as a friend. These are 6 sphinxes, hairless mutant cats, and this is Sandy Adler's home. Everybody asks me if it's my house. Sandy was a force. She was one of the first sphinx breeders in the US, and Sandy loved Amelia and treated Amelia like a granddaughter. Having no grandmothers, this was good for Amelia. We were invited to so many cat events she organized, including the Big Matilda birthday party at the Algonquin Hotel in New York. We are still deeply saddened by her passing. We got our pink sphinx, Jacob, from Sandy after my favorite Cornish Rex died. As a hairless cat, Jacob seeks heat and slept with me and Amelia. Jacob had to be bathed weekly. As luck would have it, he was a greasy sphinx. Some are greasy, some aren't. And he hated his baths. Jacob left brown grease and dandruff behind on clothes and on our bed sheets. Being hairless also comes with teeth deterioration. This was Jacob's second dental. My Chinese crested, who was a rescue, Nora, had 4 dentals. Both Nora and Jacob passed away last year, 17 days apart. Here is Jacob purring and happy to be in the sunny tower. We live in a firehouse and sleep in a hose tower. And he's with Amelia here. He really liked it up there. 4 days after this photograph, he died of cancer, which had been diagnosed only 2 weeks before. I never showed this photo of young Amelia before, and I threw some of these things in, and I hope they're okay. It's just a snapshot of the 2 of them. I draw on a wide range of influences, including Leonardo da Vinci with ermines. This is my version. Frida Kahlo. This is our Nora when her eyes were clear and she went blind, before she went blind. This is my Salvador Dali. Hannah, who's named after my friend Allison's daughter. She really liked being thrown up in the air. We did this about, I don't know, was it 20 times? 25? She was happy. She liked it up until the end. She's only 5 pounds, but she's the bravest and the smartest in our household. Jacob is watching, safe in his cradle. Wasn't very dexterous. Maybe because I'm Jewish, I have a fascination for medieval art. My favorite room at the Met is room 24. And I especially like photos and paintings, not photos, but paintings of the Virgin Mary. My interest in Christianity confounds Amelia. It annoys her that I always want her to be the Virgin Mary. And this photograph is called Trinity. Amelia feels it's disrespectful to have had Jacob pose as baby Jesus. I don't really show this picture either, but in my head, Amelia is Jesus talking to 7 skunks. No one likes this picture but me. Although Amelia did not like my second Cornish Rex, they were really competitive with each other from the time I brought Amelia home. Nat used to perch on her, like just sit on her every chance he got. It was like a territorial thing, like climbing a mountain. Amelia was helpful at his end. She cajoled him to eat and help hydrate him. Nathaniel survived 3 years of diabetes and insulin shots and horrible seizures. This is Rebecca. She was our beautiful white whippet, the dog of my dreams. When my husband wanted to have a family, I told him I wanted a white dog. This was also Amelia's sister and constant companion, and she's in so many of my photographs. Rebecca took photo direction without ever being asked. She is ill with a brain tumor in these frames, including the flying Hannah picture, the dolly picture that was earlier. Becky had to be in front of the camera when I photographed Amelia. We all took turns sleeping on the living room floor with Becky at the end because of her seizures. Amelia spent, and it was a really tough time. Amelia's never been close to any other animal like that, and we greatly miss her. Rebecca, Nora, and Jacob's deaths were the end of an era for all of us. These were the animals Amelia grew up with. She is not connected in the same way to our current household. There seemed to be a 10-year period in my family when a close family member was dying. My mother and my mother-in-law died a few weeks apart when Amelia was 3, and 2 animals that my husband and I thought of as our best friends ever left us. Amelia says that me and my friend Allison are pretty weird about mortality and about death. We got a beautiful Cornish Rex cat, Elijah, the winter Becky was dying. This cat broke me. We called him Pee-Pee Boy. His photograph always gets selected by editors and gets exhibited. He's happily living in California now. We now have a rescued stray cat, Samson. He's a loner, and he's Amelia's favorite cat. Currently, we have a normal amount of animals, 2 dogs and 2 cats. Sammy, the red cat at the bottom corner, who won't sit with anybody else, actually hates all Chinese cresteds, including my new crested. Teen Amelia is embarrassed of our animal count and me, but I'm getting another cat. I maintain a trap and release cat colony in my driveway. All shoots are a gamble, as with this shot of Thunderfoot the skunk. Amelia got to use my camera here, and I got a semi-usable shot of a very fat albino skunk. I reshot the skunks again to do better. Thunderfoot still loves Amelia, but she doesn't love him. I do. I kept asking Amelia to be engaged, but the owner thought Amelia was great with her sensitive animals. I realized that I don't understand Amelia's ability to lull animals without trying, and that I've taken it for granted because I'm an animal groupie. My fallback is always photographing dogs. I did this all through graduate school and afterwards, and in the 90s I supported myself through publications through Graphic de France and other places. I actually had calendars. When I was in Paris, I was shortlisted for this worldwide thing called the Years Photo Festival, and you should apply for it. It was great. It was amazing to be part of that festival. So this was in France. I contacted my breeder, my Whippet breeder in Indiana, and I told her I was going through dog withdrawals, and she networked to find me some greyhounds to shoot in Paris. And so this is what film 2/50th of a second at 5.6 can do in the rain. Let's see. When I first visited Elizabeth Christ, the editor at National Geographic, before my talk at the seminar, Elizabeth asked me what I was doing. And I was really embarrassed, and like, what else were you doing besides shooting the Amelia stuff? And I thought, oh shit. Right? I can barely get that work done with going up for my job and trying to get tenure, which was like some kind of hazing. I got it though, and I got promotion too. But frankly, I didn't have the drive to do anything else, but I wanted to prove that I could do something, and hanging out with all those Nat Geo people really helped. So I went back to the dogs. I was inspired while having to make conversation with Kira Pollack. She's the director of photography at Time magazine, and I was at an opening. She had juried a show at the Catskill, the center in Woodstock, and I told her I was shooting this, and she said, sounds good, show it to me for Lightbox. And then I went, oh crap, I better really do this. And so for 5 months I photographed these dog events, and it ran, 21 photographs ran in Lightbox. It was, it had 4 different pub dates, and it was 5 different pub dates, and it was re-edited 4 times. And I learned how to do captions and how important that is, and now I include that as part of how I teach my students, because writing skills are important. And I also learned to not size out of format. I had to resize every shot, because like when it ran, it was I sized it willy-nilly. And so now I really use Camera Raw and format size. But it all worked. It wasn't personal for me, and I didn't continue doing it. Dog politics, dog couture politics are vicious, and it was really too stressful. But I did have fun getting Amelia into the Brooklyn Fashion Show, and this was my last photograph of Nora. Summer is my time to shoot, and this is a miniature horse from Amelia's day camp. We've visited Dilly 3 times. Dilly is a deer that lives in a house. This is Nifty. She's a 15-year-old deer, and she just passed away. I used to be able to shoot in the Hamptons, but mostly we're in New York and in Hoboken. I'm always looking to be invited to cool places, or if you have like a nice dog, I'm interested. I'll visit you. This is New York, right? And this is Poppy Nagel. Her owner was one of the founders of Look 3, and she had a great guest house. When Amelia was 10, I asked her what she wanted out of our project, and she said she wanted primates. Amelia had wanted to be a primatologist influenced by paleontology. I networked through my old primate contacts and found a performing clown with a primate act who was willing to help contact me to others. Two of the monkey owners actually flew up for Amelia's bat mitzvah, which was a real hoot. And one was from Arkansas, one was from Texas. And this image is my favorite from that trip. We were playing monkey in the middle, and this is plastic. So the title of this is Lola Doesn't Like Fake Fruit. Fake fruit can be very upsetting to a lot of people and primates. This young gibbon made Amelia reconnect to our project. We traveled back to Maddie 3 times. The second time, Maddie and Amelia had to work out their relationship, much as Amelia and I do. Primate adolescence is universal. Maddie remembered Amelia and later asked to have her feet rubbed. This is the last time we saw Maddie. Maddie is a real princess. This is a kinkajou, and this is Tigger with an outstretched pollinating tongue. I didn't see the tongue until I saw the film, which, you know, you can imagine, like you're shooting digitally and you're always looking at the back of your camera. That tongue is really fast. Samantha is a serval, and I drove 3 hours to meet this serval, and just before I got there, the neighbors knocked on this woman's house and freaked out the serval, and it completely changed my shoot. It almost blew everything, and this is what we were able to pull out. My goal had been to, you know, photograph them both sitting on the couch, having a nice conversation. Amelia wanted a fennec fox experience, so I found her a fennec fox experience. Amelia says Lorenzo is her favorite shot, her favorite photograph. This picture was supposed to be much earlier. It's not a good photograph, but because I could do anything I want with a keynote, and I'm just practicing, I put this in because Amelia is proud of this shot. And I think it says a lot about us having an experience together, that many times the photographs, they don't work out really well, but the experience is what's really important to me. While doing a 7th grade geography homework, researching articles from newspapers in Africa, Amelia found a syndicated article about a 2-faced Janus cat. And she showed it to me, and I tracked that cat down. And I've been photographing him over 4 years, and I never get a good shot. So I was talking with the owner about this, and she said, but in this picture you can't see his double face. And my point about doing it was I really didn't want, his name is Frank and Louis. Frank is one side, Louis is the other. I didn't want him to be a prop. I have all these pictures where one of them looks really good, or he looks like a prop. So he's got 2 really beautiful eyes, one really weird eye, and a mouth that eats and a mouth that drools. And he sneezed all over her, like many times. He's 15 years old and like sort of testy. He's the same age as Amelia, and he has 180-degree vision, and he's a trip. I used to have a sort of bad attitude, and part of it is that I didn't go to New York enough. getting out of New Jersey and coming to New York is a really, really good thing. So my attitude got a lot better after I had those talks at Nat Geo and Look 3. This Sunday, New York Times published 8 photographs, and these photographs had to be unpublished. So when they told me they were going to do it, I had to like swim and find pictures that weren't on the web that they could use, which was very stressful because clearly what I thought was good was already on my website. Amelia wrote the captions for a New Yorker magazine article, and that's when I first realized Amelia sort of has Alzheimer's in reverse, that she doesn't remember a lot of what's happened. And it was really interesting to have her write and see her perspective on how she saw our photographs. The photographs, this picture has totally changed my Thanksgiving. This is Alfonso, and he loved her. And this is the Woodstock Animal Sanctuary, and he's dinner. Not for me anymore, but soon. I mean, not him personally, but that's turkey. The Amelia photographs have also been published in Slate, Feature Shoot, Flack Photo, and a lot of hard publications and online in Germany and the UK and France and China. My Modern Met is including the Amelia series in a chapter of their book. There was another TV show that contacted us. I was doing all this because I was going up for tenure. And I was like a maniac. You know, I was thinking, well, if they're paying attention to me, maybe that guy who told me to quit shooting this will change his whatever. Anyway, this was a really good shoot. It was CBS The Insider, and they really took care of us, and they were really concise, and they didn't ask me to do anything special. And he was very caring with us because, you know, I get really nervous about how, you know, the questions people could ask us. We photographed baby squirrels at a sort of a compound that rescued animals and rehabbed animals, but it was such a tight space, and there was like 200 baby squirrels. They were in incubators, but none of those pictures made the edit, but I got this picture out of it, baby horned owl. And I dealt with the sun. The sun does not make me happy, especially with film. Although I was warned that Amelia would become a teenager, I just didn't get it. A parent is a lot like the deer in the headlights. I've been brought to tears negotiating with Amelia, my logical scientist. Maybe the animal caretakers who deal with us see their own children and their unique experiences with animals through Amelia. I commiserate for advice now about teenage girls. But I realize my teenage girl is not like other teenage girls. My friend Heather told me teenagers are like birds, flying around your head, coming down to peck at you, coming back for food. This was comfort to me to share, made me feel sane. What I understand about myself is that I understand nothing until I experience it, and I am not mature. I am trying to stop threatening to quit this project. Yes, I continually threaten Amelia that I'm not going to do this with her anymore. But everybody always asks Amelia when she's going to quit. But she really is more mature than I am. I have a different perspective on being a mom now, and I realize what a jerk I was to my mother, but I think that's a teenage thing, right? Like, you all feel that way? You know, I had Amelia pretty late and never got to say I'm sorry to my mother. Amelia's my one and only, and we make mistakes together. And I see how you can make all your mistakes on the first one and how the second and third have it a lot better. I greatly miss my little girl, but I'm really proud and in awe of the young woman she has become. I'm used to the Amelia the Amelia who's taller than I am, and she can pick me up. Though the other night I did pick her up, but I couldn't do anything once I did it. I no longer have the upper hand, and we negotiate a lot. The little girl in the photos is somewhat hard for me to remember, like remembering your senior dog as a pup or knowing your parents were really young. It's really all so unreal. Amelia and I are partners in a mother-daughter dance, and photography can lure my teen to be with me for a very short period of time, unplugged, without an iPhone in hand. Oddly, Amelia still wants to work with me despite many people talking directly to her about quitting the project. They should only know how many times I've quit. I mentally punch them for asking her about quitting or assuming anything about us. We are lucky. This summer, flying Amelia, this photograph was taken. I borrowed a Leica to see if I could shoot with it, and I shot this. And this is going to be in the Aperture benefit, and it about collaboration and being on the road. And then Aperture collaborated with Instagram and is doing a little book, and this made the cut. So I'm pretty happy about that. Amelia and I struggle to put up with each other. We get mad at each other a whole lot, and last year I thought it was our last summer on the road, but Amelia seems to have recommitted to our animal project. I started a new series documenting Amelia's relationship with indigenous Huichol artists and families in Mexico this July. I couldn't pull an edit together, though I tried, but some of the outtakes are on our Instagram. My Instagram is Robin_Schwartz, and Amelia is Mia Paul. Mia_Paul, and a lot. And the pictures of her sometimes are mine, but no photo credit. I got to give it up.
Well, Robin, thank you very much. I love the honesty in it. I think it's very brave of both of you to do this. And I'm just curious, like a shoot, like, I mean, animals aren't going to cooperate. Like, how much time do you have? It's sort of like, and then Amelia, I'm curious, like how you developed this relationship so quickly with like strangers. Those two, I'm just wondering about that.
You know, it's pretty weird. I keep mentioning this whole National Geographic thing, and it's because I couldn't really relate to fine art photographers, and I felt like those guys, they got me, and I was able to talk to them, because it's really like shooting under the gun. And I never talked to people who did what I did. I mean, one of the questions I wasn't asked was some people ask me if I photoshopped the animals in, and I really need to put that in the talk. I don't. You know, I process my files like in the darkroom, right? I'm burning and dodging, and I'm tweaking in that way. And sometimes I'll darken something that's really distracting, or now maybe even take out like weird branch or something like that. But I would lose all credibility with myself if I did anything like that. And essentially, I'm a darkroom person. I mean, really, I am a darkroom person who teaches digital now, totally. I've closed the darkroom school. My kids couldn't afford the paper.
Yes, I have two questions for you. The first one is, animals are very unpredictable. Do you have any issues at one point where the animals reacted in a violent way? And the other, do you have tips on how to photograph animals where we don't scare them, either with the shutter noise or flash or something like that?
Amelia, you want to take this question?
My mom would never put me in a situation where she felt that there would be any possibility of me being in harm's way.
I think with animals, you don't try so hard. Like, you have to go with the flow, I think, don't you? Like, you can't make them do things unless, I guess, they were, trained. But even trained ones, you have to have a certain kindness. But they sense your vibe. They really do. And we really deal with the cream of the crop. I mean, no one would invite us in thinking, something would happen, like especially now in 2014, would be such a liability.
Have you ever shot with marine animals before?
I did for the New York Times. They sent me to this very conservative zoo. And it's interesting because there's a lot about zoo politics, and I photographed a seal, and I kissed him. It was run the weekend of July 4th, and his name was Action, and I can see why people fall in love with seals. It was gorgeous. It was amazing.
You spoke about good pictures during your presentation. I was wondering what you consider a good picture, Robin, Amelia, what you consider a good picture from the same shoot.
I go first? Well, I mean, one of the things that Elizabeth Chris taught me was that I have to edit, and this was like not an edit. Plus, it was probably like last night's edit. But I think a good picture. This is my favorite new picture. Editing is the thing that's the hardest thing for me, and I really want to edit with other people. It's a kindness, and you have to figure out if you have a connection with other people, because I want to hear what other people think. And you know, this experience that I have with difficulty editing, I take it back into the classroom. What I do is, with my students, I go through a few passes on bridge, and then I always want to hear what they like. And I have photos in my head, and I'll tell them what I like, but I want to know what other people like, and I feel the same thing for me, and it changes over time. One of the pictures that wasn't in here, I think, because it was you know, an old picture that I pulled out of 2005, and I didn't think anything of it then. So, you know, my editing is not written in stone, and some of it is about how other people or editors react to it. So I'm open, and I think it's really important to be open to other people, people that you trust or respect, not necessarily like, for them talking about your work. Because in the end, you could do everything you want, but there's certainly pictures that get published and people pay attention to that I'm not very comfortable with or like. But once I put it out there, then it's on me. Because once you put it out there, you can't take it back. It's all on the web. There's stuff I've totally pulled off my website, but it's on the web. But I think it's a kindness when people edit with you, because you can only get that in school or at a portfolio review, because people aren't that, you know, generous. They aren't. It's good to be in school. Well,
I think a good photo is a photo that you remember even after it's come off the screen.
Thank you very much for the pictures. I am struck by, Amelia, this is for you maybe. I'm struck by your expression on a lot of the photographs. And I wonder, you know, instead, if I was holding some of these animals, I'd make crazy faces. How do you feel when you're with the animal and that your mom's taking a picture? Talk to me about your expression, because I find it's sometimes a very neutral expression, so maybe you have something to say about that?
Well, I don't smile because I don't want to look cute. That's sometimes it's hard not to look cute because it's a child and animals, but these photos aren't supposed to be like that. They're supposed to be serious. And a lot of the time it depends on the situation. Sometimes I can do sort of a Mona Lisa smile where I can show my happiness, but not like in a cute, childish way. Or in this photo, it was like 100 degrees, 90% humidity, and I was dripping, like literally. So I was just trying to keep the bird up. But it depends on the situation. Other times it's hard for me not to smile because I'm having so much fun.
I don't need that. I'd like to answer that because it's a question I get asked. Being a mother and photographing your kid, it's like asking to be criticized, and I mean it's really hard. There was so many people would come up to me and go, "So you do kids and animals, huh?" in that really condescending way, and you know, I sort of feel I think about all those photographers, those men photographers who'd photograph their wives like getting out of the shower, holding their bra, or whatever. Like there are all these men photographers who photograph their wives and who was there. So I'm photographing Amelia. My influences are really, we spent a lot of time at the Met, but I always felt that if I photographed Amelia smiling, like it would look like a snapshot. And I took my influences from like Sargent. And I really wanted to be treated seriously. I have no interest in photographing any other, you know, person unless I'm paid for it, you know. And being taken seriously was really important because as a mother, you get put in this category where you just are not equal to a man photographing his kids. I don't care what people say, you know. I've spent like most of my life like sort of being happy, like if you thought Robin was a guy. So it may be a generational thing for me, and being small like this makes it even worse, you know, so Do you know what I mean?
You said you had a fashion shoot coming up
Monday.
with dogs.
It's Mrs. Sizzle.
Okay. How much when you're gonna on this shoot? I'm just interested to find out how much input Amelia is gonna have in it. Do you work as a interactively as a team conceptually?
You mean in general? This has nothing to do with the fashion question, right? Because when
No,
you're
it's
working
in-
for someone else,
it's in general because you would be working probably that way.
no. When you're working doing a shoot for somebody, they're the creative director. We do
But-
what is that's a new thing. I don't even want to talk about it because it's not.
But
Done yet.
Your special what makes your photographs very special
Thank you.
outside of the wonderful subject matter is the fact that you interact with each other. Your daughter has input,
Yeah.
and it's creative input. And I'm just
Because
wondering.
she's not a puppet.
No, I'm just wondering, in this upcoming shoot,
I
you don't know.
No, how could I know? I mean, this is like I just got an email, and maybe I shouldn't have, mentioned it, but it's something she wanted to do, so I reached out. It's not my thing to do this. I mean, I'm doing it because she wants to do it, and she does things for me, so it has to be reciprocal, right? I mean, I can't control her anymore. She's not like 5 years old.
That's the magic.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this. It's really inspiring, and your honesty with your daughter, it's really refreshing. And Amelia, it's really brave of you as a teenager, to do it with your mom. My question is, because you mentioned about quitting, and I wanted to ask, what drives you to not quit? Because it's hard as an artist, to be able to inspire yourself. Why keep
I
going?
want to be. I realize time is fleeting. Most of my friends have kids in college, and it's like they're really gone. I didn't know it was like this. I mean, my goal when I was a kid was to get out of the house, and this is my time to be with her. And Amelia has her own life. She has friends. She does a lot of things, and I feel like I have adventures with her. I have no family. I've been on my own since I'm 19 years old, and and that's why I'm maybe a little warped. And so I like being with Amelia, though it's a struggle. It's not always easy, and I really like the animal thing. I mean, my thing is the animal thing. I don't think like it's her thing anymore, and so doing this Mexico is an extension. It makes me stretch. I mean, I'm really stubborn. I just want to hang out with, dogs or monkeys. It's comfortable for me. It's scary to do those assignments, and they're hard to do, but it's good.
Congratulations, it's an amazing job. I used to work with wild animals too, but you say that it's a kind of scary to work with them.
I think it's scary to work with people.
Well, these aren't wild animals, so there's a big difference. These are all tame animals.
Or domesticated animals. None of them are wild. A lot of times we get listed as photographer shoots wild animals. I'm not going into nature. I'm not going, hi dear, come you come here.
Absolutely.
It's not going to work.
But I see that you work with big cats, for example. They're kind of respectful animal. I mean, it's kind of difficult to shoot an animal like this. How do you feel when you work with them?
They were all babies, so they were
Well,
kittens.
Also, there are these owners there, and Amelia's not the first person to deal with them. It's not like going in the wild and shooting. None of these are wild.
They were all dealt with since they were kittens.
I have a question for Amelia. You seem to kind of cast a spell on the animals. They respond so well to you. And I'm just curious if you have any idea why that is.
Growing up among animals, it never seemed that strange to me to be around picked up by elephants or on a camel or like dealing with flamingos. So I think because I'm always been so calm and I'm so used to it, the animals can sense if someone's afraid, and since I'm not, they probably
Tell me about India.
are.
Amelia went to India last spring. You went in a
Oh,
flock,
and
right?
we were in the like middle of Rajasthan in the desert, and we were like on these jeeps going through. Well, first we were on camels, then we switched to jeeps, and there was like a shepherd who started by, and like people were like looking at the sheep, and I just like went up and picked one up, and it wasn't like I thought like I was showing off or anything. I just like assumed, why not pick up one of these sheep? And the teachers were like, why'd you just like pick up the sheep? But then afterwards I was handing them to, and everyone was like doing it after me, but no one else, that just didn't occur to other people.
She went, I didn't go to India. I want to.
All right. Thank you very much, Robin and Amelia.